Take you to the donut shop. It's just stuck in my head now. I can't unhear it. There is a 50-cent piece in the game. Coincidence? I don't think so. In Donut Shop, players will be arranging donuts, aka these donut tiles, in a shared display along with their opponents, in an attempt to fulfill customer orders and possibly get some extra cheddar by upselling the customers on some donuts with sprinkles and coffee, because who doesn't love sprinkled donuts and coffee, no matter what the cost. Actually, the donuts in this game are really cheap. The game must take place in like the 40s. On a player's turn, they must play their donut tile to the display. They will choose one type of donut that is on that tile, and they will score 5 cents for every matching type of donut on that tile and orthogonally adjacent matching type on the display. For example, if I laid this tile and I chose the vanilla icing donuts, there are essentially 2 on here because the donut holes are wild. So I could place this tile here. Now I score 5 cents for this donut, 5 cents for the wild donut, 5 cents for this orthogonally adjacent matching donut, and 5 cents for this orthogonally adjacent donut, for a grand total of 20 cents. So I would get 20 cents from the bank. And the goal of the game is to have the most points or money by the end of the game, just like every other game. Review copy provided by the wonderful people at 25th Century Games. And if you could take just a second, go ahead and click that subscribe button. It would help out a lot. Once a player has laid their tile, they have the option of boxing some donuts. And in order to be able to box donuts, they have to have a matching card for each type of donut they wish to box. So say I wanted to box these 4 donuts here, I would have to have had a chocolate card, a vanilla card, and a blueberry, or blue raspberry. Who knows what the flavor is. A blue donut card. Unfortunately, I only have a blue card right now, so I couldn't actually box any donuts. But when boxing donuts, if you had an order card that has sprinkles on it and you happen to box the matching donut type and it has sprinkles, you will gain an extra 10 cents per donut, which is a pretty rad score. There's also coffee cards, and if you turn in coffee cards when boxing up donuts, you can also get 15 or 25 additional points. And then the last step of a player's turn, they draw a card and a tile. Now, when drawing the cards and tiles, you either have to take one of the donuts from the display, and then you would take a blind card from the napkin holder. Or the opposite, if you drew one of the face-up cards from the display, then you would have to take one of the hidden donut tiles from the back of the rack. So basically, you get to see one of the items that you choose, and then the other one has to be blind. And you can't go blind, one of them has to be visible. And then play will continue like that clockwise around the table until eventually the display will look something like this, and then players will tally up their money, and the player with the most cash is the winner of Donut Shop. So in short, add a tile to the display, gain points for one donut type, box donuts if possible, push in sprinkles and coffee, get money, get paid, get the victory. That's Donut Shop in a nutshell. Take you to the donut shop. It's just stuck in my head now. I can't unhear it. This is a fun little, I don't want to say filler, it's a little bit more than a filler game, a little bite more, but a nice entry-level tile laying game. And it is very accessible, and it only takes about 20 to 40 minutes, and the rulebook is nice and clear. After you read the rulebook, you will have no questions and should be able to teach it. Actually, 2 of the pages in the rulebook show how to assemble the napkin holder and the display for the donut tiles. Which, speaking of those, I thought that was kind of unnecessary and silly at first, and then I realized that they do kind of keep the table nice and tidy. For instance, it makes it to where there's no question what cards are on display and which ones are still on the deck because they're in the napkin holder. Same thing with the tiles. I can't think of another game that has a rule like that. I'm sure there is, and I haven't played every game, but I've played a lot of games. But I really enjoy that mechanism of drawing one of the elements from a display and then the other elements blind. And if you don't like either of the elements on display, be it donut tiles or cards, tough. You have to choose one of them that's visible and you get the other one that's blind. Or if you want both that are visible, you can't do that either. It's one visible, one blind, and I think that's really cool. But the production value on this game is just astounding. The art is low-key fantastic. The cards are just pictures of donuts, but they added little extra like Easter eggs, like, you know, there will be a chocolate donut, but then on another chocolate donut card, that card will have a bite out of it. And then another one, there might be like a couple bites out of it. And the backs of the donut tiles, I have legit tried to wipe off crumbs that were printed on the tiles, but I'm also kind of an idiot, so, you know, take that for what it's worth. And the theme is interesting, or not really interesting, but it's a nice, colorful theme that, you know, there's not a whole lot of donut games out there. Definitely my favorite donut game. And at first the game seems overly lucky and kind of shallow when, you know, when you're placing your first tile or two, when you're like, I just pick a type of donut and I get points for it, you know, okay, well, depending on what it's adjacent to, what's already on the tile. Yes, however, there are layers of strategy to this where, yes, you do get points for what's on that tile and where you place it, but there's kind of a larger scale where you are kind of building, hopefully, a box of donuts that you can score a lot of points with. And on top of that, there's the coffee cards and the sprinkle cards. And I've seen players build a really valuable box with the sprinkle cards. So if you're able to maneuver and place those donut tiles out there in a manner in which maybe you can get a couple, maybe 2 or 3 sprinkled donuts of the same type together, and you have, say, a matching blue sprinkle card, and you get a box that contains 2 or 3 blue sprinkles, that's an additional 10, 20, 30 cents for that box because of the sprinkles, on top of the money that you get from boxing those donuts. But the other players around the table, hopefully they don't have a blue sprinkled donut card as well. Or maybe you have been strategically placing those tiles to, yes, include the blue sprinkled donut, but also maybe to include some of your other cards that you already have, like chocolate donuts or vanilla or whatever. And maybe you've been paying attention to what some of the other players have been drawing tile and or card-wise, and you don't think that they have the order cards in their hand to be able to fulfill one of these boxes of donuts. There's almost a bizarre kind of like Ticket to Ride sense of urgency and suspense to the game, which I really wasn't expecting from this, but it was definitely a pleasant surprise. And speaking of the donut boxes, there's only 4 of each size. So typically early game, players will be building boxes or fulfilling orders with just 4 donuts, just a 2x2. But then quickly the half dozens or the 6 donuts, they start to disappear too. But maybe you don't even want to fool with those because you're afraid that they'll run out. Maybe you start working on a 9-box donut or a whole dozen, who knows? But there's a little more strategy here than I initially thought there would be. And I have found all of my plays of this game to be very enjoyable. It's easy to get to the table, it doesn't outstay its welcome. And every time I've brought it out, we've played it multiple times in a setting because it's just a nice game. It's just a fun game. And I teetered somewhere between giving this one a 3.5, but I've enjoyed my plays so much of it. I'm going to go ahead and give this one a 4 out of 5. Definitely check this one out. That is Donut Shop by 25th Century Games. And thanks for watching another episode of Rolling with the Beard.